The Dragon Ball franchise is one I've been around for almost my whole life, but ever since I was little, my main way of experiencing the series wasn't the manga or the show, but the video games. I grew up in the golden age of Dragon Ball video games, also known as the PS2 era. Such staples to the time being Budokai 3 and Budokai Tenkaichi 3. The latter I remember asking my grandparents for Christmas. Just the idea of my grandparents going into a store and asking for this lengthy Japanese name of a game is enough to make me red in the face. Anyways, I would pick up almost every mainline Dragon Ball game I could. Raging Blast, Battle of Z, and my favorite, Ultimate Tenkaichi. I know this game gets flack nowadays for being, well, total booty, but back then I didn't care about the gameplay. What I cared about was making my very own character in the Dragon Ball world. Let me tell you, I went nuts with the avatars in that game. Those are such fond memories. I remember I had just watched Battle of Gods in Japanese on my little Chromebook, and the first thing I did was try and give my character a Super Saiyan God form, to which I succeeded. Just the idea of having my own character was mind-blowing. A few months later, I stumbled across a certain video on YouTube. That video being Unreal Entertainment Gaming's, or however he pronounces it, first episode of his Dragon Ball Online playthrough with friends. I cannot even begin to tell you how floored I was at the very idea of this game. So you're telling me that this takes place 200 years after DBZ, and we get to make our very own characters, grow up from a kid to an adult, and then the list goes on. I did as much research as I possibly could, but above everything, I wanted to play that game. But my poor little Chromebook just wasn't up to the task, so all I could was wait. For what exactly? Dragon Ball Xenoverse. I cannot even begin to explain the level of hype I had for this game. Finally, I could make my own characters in the Dragon Ball world in an action RPG, instead of whatever Ultimate Tenkaichi's rock, paper, scissors system was supposed to be. I was so stoked. I followed everyone I possibly could who was close to this game. I absorbed every little morsel from trailers, Japanese exclusive betas, data mines, and speculation. This was very possibly my first experience with what we now call a hype cycle for a game. I adored this game so much that I made it my mission to platinum Xenoverse 1 on the PlayStation 3. So then imagine my shock when I see the first little nuggets of Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 at E3 2016. I know that now, 5 years after that time, that Xenoverse 2 has become something of a community punching bag, but every time I come back to this game, I still feel that same magic, and I wanted to remind people of that. I would deliberate on how I should go about that when I stumbled across the idea of a 100% playthrough. So here we are. I have 3 main parts of this playthrough lined up. Part 1 will be me going through the Legend Patrol quests in Xenoverse 1, which I have brought back to the PC version with modding. I will be doing just the story mode of Xenoverse 1, and going through it for the first time in about 6 years with a recreation of my very first character. I also plan to do one in-game saga per episode, so it should be about 15 episodes long. Then, Part 2, I will create one character for each race in the game, and bring them all through the base game's story and parallel quests. This is where the 100% mode starts to kick in. I will be unlocking every move, super soul, and character, as well as give a breakdown for all of them. Part 3 will be going over all of the DLC missions, as well as playing with a few mods and just tying up loose ends. Speaking of mods, I will be doing all of this with the Xenoverse 2 revamp installed, which just makes the characters look a little more accurate, makes the shading and lighting a little cleaner, as well as change a very small number of animations. And with that, I'll see you in the playthrough. Future Annie with an update, because it's been a while since I've recorded all of the stuff in the first part of the intro, and I wanted to explain a few things, because some things have happened since then. So since I recorded the first part of the intro, DLC Pack 14 has been released for Xenoverse 2, alongside the Legend Patrol DLC, which I will be using instead of the mods that I was using. Since the DLC just came out, the revamp is no longer working with it, as far as I'm aware, so I'm just going to be using the base Xenoverse 2, which is fine because that's so much content already. We'll get to the revamp stuff when we get to the revamp stuff. By that I mean when the mods start working again. And also I wanted to say, I've pre-recorded parts 1 through 5 of this series, and I was using OBS to record it, and I had to stop using OBS because it didn't really agree with the all of the action going on in a Dragon Ball game. So for parts 1 through 5, you will see lots of squares. Like, it's hard to explain, but whenever there's too much action going on, it will just turn into squares. And I could scrap all of those and pre-record them, but I really like the energy that I had in those couple, So I want to keep them, and I'm using XSplit now. So XSplit, and I did a little test recording. XSplit seems to agree much more with Xenoverse 2. So parts 1 through 5 will look a little funky. I'll have the funny squares everywhere, but I just like how those videos turned out, besides the weird visuals. So, with all that said, I will see you guys in the playthrough.